Good morning, guys. I hope your day is starting off fantastic. Mine is, I love this time of day now. I honestly do. It's my absolute favorite. What I want to talk about today is panic attacks. Panic attacks, kind of give my insight on it. What triggers them for me, and how I cope with it, the systems and mechanisms I have in place to guide me through it and stuff like that. So to start off, what triggers my panic attacks? It can be a myriad of things: stress, anxiety, finances, which all more or less are under the same umbrella. At least for me, they are. You might go to somebody else that might give you a different answer. And I know there's different descriptions for each one. However, anxiety, stress or anxiety-induced stress, anxiety-induced panic attacks, however you want to look at it. That's what it is. And maybe for other people, this is how their panic attacks are triggered. So maybe this may help. Maybe it's different, But for me, what triggers my panic attacks is overthinking. It's overthinking. I'll think about one thing, and that thing can be ranging from something small to something big. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be something, super minuscule, super, obscure that, I shouldn't have to worry about it. Or it can be something that is, it's slapped in my face and it's crazy, So yeah, for instance, yesterday, I guess, I don't really like to bring too much personal stuff into these videos, but I guess this isn't really personal, I guess it's just more or less story time. So I'm getting ready to move in a couple of days. I'm moving back to California. Those of you who might have not known, I lived in California for a year and a half, and then I moved back home to El Paso, Texas, and now I'm ready to go back. I want to be back there. I'm ready to take my life by the horns and get shit done. But anyways, so yesterday, my brother had told me, hey, let's go ahead and apply for the apartment. That way we can get that part out of the way and everything. And so, we're getting in the process of doing that, and we get to the part where, you need to show your pay stubs, your work pay stubs. Problem is I work as a server. So I get paid off of tips. And in Texas, you more or less get paid $2 an hour, so you don't get paid crap. Yeah, we make, our bills are paid off of tips for sure. So, if I was to get my work pay stubs, it'd be showing I make $20, $25 a month. Can't do that, And so I had told him, I was like, well, I have my bank statements. Does that work? I was like, I deposited cash over the months. I didn't always deposit cash, but I was like, I would deposit cash, throughout my work week and stuff like that. Sometimes I completely forgot to go to the ATM, and I'd just use cash. Note to self: deposit everything. Everything. Deposit everything. America likes to have receipts. America likes to have proof. So, I had told him, crap, I did deposit money, while I worked, at that job. I still work there. But I was like, but I don't know, if those bank statements will, match up, So we pulled them up, and he, we tallied up how much, I've deposited over the past, 6 months. And so, and he was like, it might work, but it might not, and if that's the case, if it doesn't work, he was like, we'll have to, have my mother write a letter, because I work for my parents as my second job. I work 2 jobs. my parents own a dance studio, and I teach dance. We'll talk about that another day. For those who don't know that, I dance. Yeah, and I teach dance and stuff like that. But yeah, so he was like, we'll probably have to, if it doesn't work, we'll have to get a letter from mom saying, well, you make this much at this job, working with them, and hearing that, that's when the weight of the world started coming in. For those who don't know, and this is a sign of I could possibly have a panic attack, and maybe this is the case with others of those who have panic attacks. What it feels like, it feels like, quite literally, the world is caving in on you. The weight, and that's why I say the weight of the world. A literal weight comes on you, and it feels like it's crumpling you up. And that's usually the first signs of you're about to have a panic attack. So when my brother said, I don't know if your bank statements will be able to get you through and all that stuff, boom, the weight of the world started coming in, and it's not like that, it's not like boom, stress, and then the weight of the world. It's a gradual thing. It starts off as a little weight, and then it gets heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. If you've never been around somebody who has a panic attack, at least this is how it happens for me, is the weight of the world, more or less, will start to come down on me, and I'll just start staring off into a distance, just start staring, and I won't be breathing. I hold my breath, I guess. I don't know, at least so I'm told. I hold my breath, I'm not breathing, and then I'll take one really big breath, and then I'll breathe out. And because talking to my mom, about panic attacks, and how does she deal with them, she always tells me, breathe and count to 10. Breathe in, breathe out, count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Breathe in, breathe out, 1, and so on and so forth. Sometimes that works. Sometimes that can curb that weight. Sometimes it does not work. Sometimes that is not, that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And what will turn into one big breath will get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, until your breath is very shallow and you're taking very short breaths. And then after a while, before you know it, you're hyperventilating. Such is the case with me. Like I said, I'm staring off into a distance. I'm holding my breath, and then I'll take a deep breath, and then my breath will start getting shallower and shallower, and then before I know it, I'm hyperventilating. And I'm freaking out. And that's more or less what goes through the whole process. Sometimes it can get really, really bad, like extremely, extremely bad, to the point where those who are trying to help me and calm me down, I'm attacking them. I'm yelling at them. When in reality, all it is I'm stressing out. I'm freaking out. It's nothing against them and stuff like that. It gets to the point where I'm like, no, don't touch me. It gets really bad sometimes. But you gotta have systems and mechanisms in place to curb it, to help you through it. And those who have panic attacks, sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes it's not as easy as, oh yeah, I have this system, in place, and so every single time I have a panic attack, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be a-okay. Sometimes the weight is way overbearing, and sometimes you just gotta let them have that panic attack. You gotta let them go through it. Such is the case with my girlfriend, or my family. My girlfriend, she's able to see the signs of when I'm about to have a panic attack, and it's super important that if you don't have somebody in your life who can notice the signs and kind of help you curb that panic attack, that you find one. You know, she'll whether it's, you know, I'm you know, just sitting, you know, chilling out with her, or we're in the car or something like that. She knows that, like, if she's like talking to me, you know, she'll like be having a conversation with me, and if I don't answer, she'll look at me, you know. You know, this is off, you know, secondhand. The thing about panic attacks and when I'm staring off into the distance is basically up until I start hyperventilating, I don't know what's going on. You know, I do to a degree. But until I start hyperventilating, I'm just a million thoughts. You know, like I said in the last video, I have a hyperactive mind, so I'm always thinking. I'm always, you know, and sometimes, you know, it can be productive. Sometimes it can be counterproductive, and it can, you know, bring me back a little bit. But she'll be having a conversation with me, and she'll like ask for my opinion, or she'll wait for a response from me, and I won't. She'll be like, Trey, and I won't answer, and then she'll look at me, and she'll see that I'm just staring, and she goes, "Are you about to have a panic attack?" And she puts her, if we're in the car, she'll put like her hand on my shoulder, or, you know, or if we're like, you know, just chilling out together, you know, at the house, she'll hold me, you know, she'll you know, hold me. She'll tell me like, hey, like, it's all right, you know, it's, relax, you know, you gotta breathe, Trey, you know, you know, it's all right, I'm here. That's super duper important. You know, it's super duper important. If you're in a relationship with somebody who has panic attacks, the absolute worst thing you can do is say, you're on your own. That is the absolute worst. They need to know that especially if you're in a relationship and they've taken the initiative, no pun intended, the initiative, that was a bad joke, engage in social relationships and whatnot. Sorry, my girlfriend called me through the video, so we're gonna have to do a jump cut. Yeah, no, that is the absolute worst thing you can do, is when somebody's having a panic attack, is let them deal with it on their own. Is absolutely, that's the worst thing you can do. It's the worst thing you can do, honestly. I know from experience. But at the same time, you gotta let them know, like, hey, like, you can't leave when I'm having a panic attack. Like, you can't let me go through it on my own. Like, if I'm putting my trust in you, then I need you to be there for me when the weight of the world starts coming down on me, you know. My girlfriend gratefully has come to understand that. And it's not that, you know, it's not that she was, oh, you know, bye, Trey, you know, you got to deal with that on your own, you know, you're crazy, you're a basket case, you know. But I'm not gonna, you know, lie. The first few times she did it, it wasn't a matter of you know, she was dipping out. It was she herself didn't know how to help me, so her solution, more or less, was to leave. Which is fine. You know, that's why I say, you know, you gotta let them know, like, you know, if you know, you gotta let them know. Sometimes it's a given, especially when you're in a prolonged relationship. It's a given. But yeah, absolute worst thing you can do when you're in a relationship with somebody who has a panic attack is let them go through it alone. It's not okay. Maybe your thought process is, you know, they gotta figure out, you know, how to get through that panic attack, you know, by themselves. No, they don't. You know, to a degree, yeah, they do. They need to be able to, you know, for when you're not there, you know, whether it, you know, you're at work or school, or God forbid you guys, you know, break up or something like that. You know, they need to have their own systems in place to cope, you know, such as the case with, you know, comic books. This is a great comic book, by the way. It's called Avengers: The Initiative Basic Training. Irrelevant. But another anchor of mine, another measure of peace. And that's what it is, guys. That's honestly what it is finding that small measure of peace, you know. That's why I wake up so early in the morning, and I do my meditating, I read my comic book, and then occasionally I'll throw the camera up and just talk. Excuse me. Is because when I wake up, 5:45, 6 o'clock, in the morning, and I start my morning regimen, and I do my meditating, I read my comic book, and I'll do my meditating for 5-10 minutes, and then for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how good the story is, I'll read the comic book, and that's how I get my day started, and so on and so forth. But honestly, what it is that for that small time, for that hour and 5-10 minutes, whatever the case may be, it's me, it's my time. I'm not having to worry about the stress and rigors of life. I'm not having to worry about my day job or my teaching job, and not that I worry about it, but I don't have to. I can put the world on pause for a second and do what relaxes me, and just take in and appreciate life and the things I do have, and that being able to make that time to get that small measure of peace, it has helped with panic attacks and stuff, because like I said, it's a panic attacks, it can range from small to big, and that small thing can turn into something big because you're overthinking. What I employ you, and this is what has kind of helped me, and I totally understand. Sometimes the anxiety is way too much to handle. That it's not just as easy as just curbing it. You can't just curb it when it's really, really bad. But what I employ you to do is tell yourself, if you overthink, because that's what starts by panic attacks is overthinking. What's kind of helped me is to tell myself, but that hasn't happened yet, and not it hasn't happened yet, just it hasn't happened, you're freaking out about something that hasn't happened, you're not there, and I tell myself, if you're freaking out about that worst case scenario, if then you're bringing it to your attention, you're saying, okay, I'm freaking out about that worst case scenario, therefore what you should do is everything you can do to not get in that worst case scenario. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. That's kind of what has helped me, and I totally understand. Sometimes that overthinking thought is like so overbearing that you can't just tell yourself, oh, it hasn't happened yet. Like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, sometimes it's a really like overbearing, overthinking type of deal. But yeah, that's helped me, curb it a few times. Is to say like, but that hasn't happened. Like what, you're freaking out about what could happen and not what has happened. And you freaking out about what could happen makes you aware of it. So you're able to take the steps necessary to avoid that, or you should take the steps necessary to avoid that. That's my advice, I guess. That's what triggers my panic attacks, how I cope with them, it's finding that small measure of peace, whether it be within, family, a significant other, or something outside of an actual person, maybe something else. And that's not to go on a tangent a little bit, but I feel like there's a misconstrued idea of like what comic books are for certain people. Yeah, like, it's entertainment and stuff like that. Some people it's super dorky and geeky and everything like that. For me, is the reason why it's an anchor for me is it takes me out of this world. It takes me away from here. And not to say that like I fantasize about having like superpowers and stuff like that. I mean, I do. Who doesn't? But you know, at the same time, you know, it takes me away from this world, you know, and I'm able to, for that hour, you know, 30 minutes to an hour, I'm able to live in their world, you know, and I don't have to worry about, you know, my stresses. So for some people, comic books is a breakaway. It's a measure of peace from the actual real world, you know. And I feel like that's kind of sometimes misconstrued with people who say like they read comic books, and sometimes people look at them like, comic books, like comic books are for like 12, 13, 14-year-olds. Like, no, they're not. They're for everybody. Yeah. Anyways, I guess that's it, guys. That's really it. You know, find that small measure of peace. You know, if you have anxiety-induced panic attacks, you know, or just anything induced panic attacks, you know, one, you know, if you have that significant other in your life, let them know, like, hey, like, when I'm having a panic attack, I need you there. Like, you can't bail on me. Like, I need you there, definitively. You know, if you've never talked to somebody about your panic attacks and you don't want to talk to your significant other, talk to a trusting family member. You know, talk to a trusting family member. Hey, what's up, dude? There's a guy in the back. Talk to a family member who you think can maybe not what's the word, relate with you, but they can understand you, you know. I had to go to my mom because my mom has panic attacks from time to time, so she could kind of relate with me and help me with, you know, sound advice and stuff like that. But maybe there is nobody in your life who has panic attacks, so you can't go to them to ask them, like, how do you deal with it, you know? Well, you can still go to a family member, mom, dad, brother, sister, it doesn't matter who it is, abuelito, abuelita, it doesn't matter. And let them know, like, I have really bad anxiety, and that anxiety leads to panic attacks, and I need help, like, figuring out how to get through it, you know. They might have the answers, they might not. That's why I say you gotta kind of have to develop your own mechanisms, your own systems that can help you in case there aren't people who can, you know. Finding those small measure of pieces, you know, small measure of peace, you know. If it's not in an actual person, you know, a significant other, find it in you know, something else, whether you go running or swimming or meditating, whatever the case may be, you know. I think it's super important, and this is for everybody, you know. I don't think just people who have panic attacks, for everybody. I think it's important that you make time for that small measure of peace, to break away, to not stress about life, you know, because one thing that I'm coming to grips with, and I said this in the last video, I'm barely 21 years old, you know. I'm figuring out life, and I'm figuring out myself, you know. I'm on a journey of self-discovery, and I'm bringing you guys along with it, along with me on it, you know. So, you know, I'd like to look back on this video in a couple of years and see how far I've come, you know, see what how I've grown, how I've come to cope with, you know, my panic attacks and stuff like that, you know. And to more or less know that, like, you know, those who do stick around, you know, through it all, you know, not just friends, you know, family or girlfriend and stuff like that, but like you guys, you know, those who might stick around, you know, for the next couple of years or however long I decide to do these videos. I don't know, you know. Like I said, I have a million thoughts in my head, and I just like to talk about them. Yeah, find that measure of peace, guys. Find that measure of peace, and make time for it. You know, it's going to impact you, you know, and it'll start off as a small impact, but then you'll start cultivating it into a lifestyle, and then it'll become a big impact, you know. So, yeah, guys, I'll go ahead and hop off on here. Yeah. you guys have a blessed day. You know, remember, every day you wake up is a blessing. Always remember that, you know. All right, guys, that's it for today. Have a good one.